Module 5. This is all about having difficult conversations. In the story in this module, I'm going to talk about having difficult conversations. It's something that we humans don't find easy to do, when in fact it's mostly about telling the truth. And the more we reinforce it's going to be difficult, the more difficult it becomes. So I try to tone down the difficult piece and say this is just a conversation that needs to be had. It'll let more people move on, or indeed let me move on in my thinking. They can be emotive subjects. 3 common ones are, your performance is not acceptable, or your job is at risk, or you know that you smell sometimes. It's all the conversations that people would rather avoid. And the downside of avoiding these conversations is that problems just tend to get bigger. They get harder as time passes. More stories seem to appear around the subject, and the wall of difficulty gets higher. So it's best to deal with the subject when the wall is low. I firmly believe that great leaders tell the truth sooner. It allows both parties to get stuff sorted and then move on. There are 5 areas that help people work through difficult conversations to get a successful outcome. Have a strong plan. Be human and ask permission all through the conversation. Be very specific at what the conversation is about. Offer support and always close in a very strong agreement. The first area on having a strong plan, which there are 2 parts to. The first part is being really clear on what it is you're trying to deliver and the result you're trying to create. Have a few bullet points written down to keep you on track, especially if the conversation gets a bit emotional, so you both leave the meeting clear on what the issue is and what needs done. The second part of the plan is to create the right environment for the conversation. Make sure it's a good day and time to have this conversation. The location is secure and they are not interrupted. Or consider going for a walk or an off-site coffee. And lastly, make sure you've planned enough time to have the conversation. The second area is to be human. Be you and ask for permission all through the conversation. So typically having this type of conversation, I would say, I've not been looking forward to this conversation. I am keen to have it out of the respect I have for you. And I think we can get the situation moved on or resolved. Is it okay for me to continue and get into why I've called this meeting? As we get through the conversation, and if things get more difficult, I would say, is it okay to continue or do you want to stop? Do you want a breather? When conducting these conversations, just see how you feel. Be very authentic and keep asking for permission to continue. The third area is be very specific, no matter how difficult it gets. Only use facts and information that you know about the situation. Never use second-hand information. For example, Wendy from accounts says that you smell. Don't do this. Say what you see and what you experience. It's a much better, stronger, connected conversation to have. And when you're having the conversation, don't wimp out. Stay strong in the reasons for the conversation and your wish to get it sorted out. If you do start to lose your nerve and only do half the job you set out to do, it is likely you'll need to come back to the conversation, which is really hard for both parties. The fourth area is to offer support. In many cases, people involved in difficult conversations have not got there by themselves. The situations are often co-created and then left to deteriorate. An older style of management behaviour is to shout at someone for poor performance and then shame them into making the change. This has never worked well and does not give a strong outcome. A much stronger behaviour is to try to co-create the improvement. Offer support all through the conversation. For example, if it's job performance, you could say, what could I do to help you improve your performance? Are there things we could do to change or adjust that would make it easier for you to get the job done? There are some books I can recommend on this subject, if you're open to it. It's great to know that someone is genuinely interested and trying to help you. It's good to come from a place of kindness. Remember that you're dealing with another human that is likely trying to do their best, just needs a little help to get there. The fifth area is always close in a strong agreement. Make sure there's no dubiety on what's going to happen next. Make sure that you and the other person know what the next part of the process is. It's always a good idea to ask if they can repeat what's going to happen next, repeat it back to you, to make sure it has landed, especially if it's got a bit emotional. In my experience working through these type of conversations, of which I've done many, is never quite as difficult as you've built it up in your own thinking. So in summary, there are 5 areas that help people work through difficult conversations to get a successful outcome. Have a strong plan. Be human and ask for permission all through the conversation. Be very specific in what the conversation is about. Offer support and always close in a strong agreement.